And so Oregon State drew LaSalle this morning. They're drawing Syracuse for these afternoon races. It's going to be a tough. That's a tough ask. Syracuse has become a top 5 program consistently. Extremely well coached, good culture there. They finished 5th in the country last year. A really outstanding performance for Syracuse. And I think they got it rolling.
Well, they're back east. Where do they train back east in Syracuse?
They actually can do some training. Excuse me, on the Erie Canal.
Okay.
And then Lake Onondaga, which is one of the Finger Lakes up in upstate New York.
So Syracuse is number 1 right there, and lane 2 is going to be Oregon State. That's to your right of your screen. It will switch when we go ahead and switch camera angles, but another great shot and neck and neck right now.
Yeah, it looks like they came off the line. Those first 5 strokes, pretty dead even. Good for Oregon State to match that challenge right off the line. Syracuse is starting to show they're a little bit stronger crew right now, and in this second 100 meters, when it's kind of getting to be time to start thinking about getting down to your race base cadence, where you're going to spend 4.5 minutes, Syracuse has shown they can move the boat a little more efficiently.
If you both have the same stroke rate, and you're both sticking your oar in. The blade of your oar in a certain depth, which is pretty much the same for each. What is going to make up the difference in these boats? What is it that...
One of the main things is that guy and then that guy and then that guy.
What is it about those guys?
So they are probably just a little bit stronger than their competitors across they're a little... can efficiently apply power a little, whether that's because maybe they're slightly longer physical levers, they have a little bit better ability to process oxygen, a little bit more explosive for each stroke, technically slightly more accomplished. It adds up to margins on every stroke, and
as an ex-head coach, when you went out looking for guys, what were you looking for?
If I was recruiting guys that were experienced rowers, to be honest, the one thing I needed to hear is the kid was coachable and he was a good teammate. Obviously, that's after certain parameters are set. But, you don't want a middle linebacker to be coachable and a good teammate, but be 142 pounds, getting lit up by the offensive line.
Yeah.
But if you meet those basic parameters, I wanted kids that were going to grow in the program and be good teammates.
Basically, what you're saying is when you look at the physical attributes of the athlete, and they are pretty much close, you're going to look to see what kind of character the individual is, not only in the boat, but in the locker room, in team meetings, on trips and such.
Yep.
That's very, very important.
Yeah, and this is a sport that involves a lot of work and behind
cooperation.
The scenes, and you have bad dudes in your program, bad dudes in your boathouse. Yeah, it's not going to be nearly as good of a culture. Now, for the athletes that had not rowed before, we've got a lot of tall swimmers, tall 800-meter runners in track. Generally, those kinds of sports are more conducive to transferring over to rowing, especially swimming. Those kids are used to working really hard. And a lot of the ball sports, it's a little frustrating for guys to make that transition. There's no scoreboard here.
Right. The scoreboard is the stopwatch and where you finish at the finish line.
But good tall track athletes, good tall swimmers. Those were kind of our bread and butter.
Does weight come into play? In other words, you've got a guy who's 6'7". He's going to be 200 plus pounds. do you try and trim them down, lean them out, bulk them up? What?
Well, generally, the work takes care of that.
Yeah.
And, I last coached in college in 1996, so we didn't have the nutritionists and that type of
right,
which is a terrific
scientific
these
background.
Programs have that kind of support now, and you're still talking about college kids that are eating a burrito at 10:30 at night just to get calories in. So, but typically you're working so hard as a college rower that dropping weight is not an issue. Keeping it on is really more of the issue generally.
Kind of like a Tour de France bicyclist. In other words, you're going to consume so many calories in doing something like this that it's very difficult to go ahead and replace those calories so that you can get that energy source back for your next race or next practice.
Yep, refueling is a significant part and
recovery and refuel.
Yep.
There's the moving seats. As you can see that the bodies are, you see the bodies going like this. They stay upright, and it's amazing. They don't lose anything. If you were to measure between each individual, the distance never changes.
Yeah. So what you want to see in a high performing crew is a lot of horizontal motion. You don't want to see a lot of lifting
up and down,
dropping. Yeah, and so they'll pivot from the hips and swing the bodies over to get.
But what I'm saying is that distance right there doesn't change throughout the boat, and that's the amazing part. Because when you get tired, you start to lean and you start to use your back, and your body's just trying to tell you. You got to do something different. I'm tired. Change this.
Right, and that's one of the challenges, especially in the last minute of a race, is staying upright, not collapsing, either at the finish or as you take the water at the catch. It's a real challenge that